You ever stop and think about how your entire life could change in a single moment? They want massive success, the dream body, the financial freedom, the perfect relationship. They look at those who've made it and think, wow, they must have done something extraordinary to get there. And yeah, sure, the end result looks huge, but what most people don't realize is that success doesn't come from one big dramatic move. It comes from the small, consistent decisions you make every single day. It's not about waking up one day and saying, I'm going to be successful and then magically arriving there. It's about the daily habits, the seemingly insignificant choices that stack up over time. Because here's the truth, success isn't one giant leap. It's a series of tiny steps, repeated over and over, that eventually create unstoppable momentum. Think about it like this. Imagine two people standing at the same starting line. One person makes a choice to improve just 1% each day. The other person, they stay the same. After a week, the difference is barely noticeable. After a month, maybe there's a slight gap. But after a year, after 5 years, that tiny, consistent effort has compounded into a massive transformation. One person is thriving, living their dream life, while the other is still exactly where they started, stuck. It works in every area of life. Take health. You don't get fit from working out once. You don't get healthy from eating one salad. But if every single day you decide to take the stairs instead of the elevator, drink water instead of soda, move your body instead of sitting all day, those little choices add up. At first, you don't see the change. But give it time, and suddenly you wake up feeling different. You've got more energy, Anna. You're stronger. You look in the mirror, and you realize you've transformed, not because of one big decision, but because of the daily commitment to tiny, consistent actions. It's the same with finances. People think they need to win the lottery or land some massive deal to be financially free. Real wealth isn't built overnight. It's built in the small, disciplined choices, saving a little, instead of spending recklessly, investing instead of wasting money on things that don't matter, learning instead of staying ignorant. Over time, those choices create a future where you're not worried about money, you're in control of it. And let's talk about relationships. People assume great relationships happen because of fate, because two people just to click. But the strongest relationships don't last because of one magical moment. They last because of the small, everyday choices. Choosing to listen instead of react. Choosing patience over frustration. Choosing to show love even when you don't feel like. It's the daily actions that build deep, lasting connections. The problem is, most people don't see immediate results, so they quit. They go to the gym for a week, don't see a six-pack, and give up. They start a business, don't make millions in the first month, and call it a failure. They try to improve their mindset, but after a few days, they're still stuck in old patterns. So they tell themselves it doesn't work. That's not how success happens. You don't plant a seed and expect a tree the next morning. You water it, you nurture it, you trust the process. Look at the most successful people in the world. Athletes, entrepreneurs, artists. They didn't get there because of one massive, life-altering decision. They got there because they made the right small decisions, day in and day out. Even when it was hard, even when no one was watching, even when they didn't feel like it, it's easy to look at where you are now and feel overwhelmed. It's easy to think, I have so to go. But the truth is, you don't need to climb the entire mountain today. You just need to take one step, and then another, and then another. So ask yourself, what's one small decision you can make today that moves you forward? Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's reading 10 pages of a book instead of scrolling through social media. Maybe it's choosing to focus on gratitude instead of stress. Because those small choices, they are shaping your future. And 5 years from now, you will either look back and be grateful that you made them or regret that you didn't. The choice is yours. Fear and doubt, those two little voices that creep into your mind every time you think about making a change, every time you even consider stepping outside your comfort zone. They whisper all the reasons why you shouldn't do it, why you're not ready, why you're going to fail. And for most people, those voices are loud enough to keep them stuck. But here's the truth. Fear and doubt are nothing but illusions. They only have power if you listen to them. Think about it. Every single person who has ever achieved anything great has felt fear. Every single one of them has had doubts. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't that one group was fearless, it's that one group decided to act despite their fear. That's it. That's the secret. Fear isn't a stop sign, it's a signal. It's a sign that you're about to grow, that you're stepping into something bigger than where you've been. Most people wait for fear to disappear before they take action. They tell themselves, I'll start when I feel ready. But when does that moment come? When is fear ever going to just magically go away? It doesn't. If anything, the longer you wait, the stronger it gets. Fear grows in the absence of action. The more you overthink, the more paralyzed you become. But the second you move, the second you decide, the second you take that first step, fear starts to shrink. You ever notice how fear is always worst in your mind? You build something up so much. You tell yourself a story about how hard it's going to be, how much it's going to hurt, how embarrassing it will be if you fail. And then when you finally do it, you realize it wasn't nearly as bad as you imagined. It happens every single time. The hardest part is just getting started. Doubt works the same way. It convinces you that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not experienced enough. It reminds you of every failure, every mistake, every reason why you can't. But doubt is a liar. It only has power if you give it your attention and the reality is you are far more capable than you think. The only difference between you and the people you look up to is that they didn't let doubt control them. They had the same insecurities, the same worries, but they moved forward anyway. How many times in your life have you held yourself back because of fear or doubt? How many opportunities have you missed? How many dreams have you abandoned? What would your life look like right now if you had just ignored those voices and taken action? You have to stop waiting for confidence. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. You don't feel ready before you start the business. You don't feel ready before you take on the challenge. You don't feel ready before you change your life. You start, you struggle, you learn, and then, somewhere along the way, confidence shows up. But if you wait for it first, you'll be waiting forever. And here's the crazy part. Most of the things you fear will never even happen. You spend so much time worrying about worst-case scenarios, imagining failure, rejection, embarrassment. But how often do those things actually play out the way you thought? 99% of the time, the fear was nothing but an illusion. And even if the worst does happen, so what? You learn, you adjust, you grow, and you keep going. The people who succeed in life, the ones who break through, aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who feel it and take action anyway. They're the ones who understand that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward in spite of it. So what are you waiting for? That fear you feel, that doubt in your mind? It's not there to stop you. It's there to test you. To see if you're willing to rise above it. To see if you're ready to step into the person you were meant to be. And the only way to find out? You take the first step. You move before you feel ready. You act before you have it all figured out. Because once you do, once you push through that wall, you realize something incredible. You were never really afraid at all. It was just your old self fighting to keep you where you were. But you're not that person anymore. You're bigger than your fear. You're stronger than your doubt. And the life you want? It's on the other side of the action you take right now. It's amazing how one decision, one defining moment, can set off a chain reaction that changes everything. You don't always see it at the time. Sometimes it feels like just another choice, just another step in the day. But looking back, you realize that moment was the pivot. That moment was where everything shifted. Turning point. Someone was at rock bottom, stuck, lost, unsure of what to do next. And then they made a choice. Not a huge, dramatic, world-shaking move. Just a single choice that sent their life down a completely different path. Maybe it was the decision to say yes to an opportunity. Maybe it was walking away from something that no longer served them. Maybe it was as simple as refusing to give up one more time. There are people who were broke, completely drowning in debt, working a job they hated, feeling like there was no way out. And then one day, they made a decision. They chose to stop making excuses. They chose to take responsibility. They chose to take action. And from that moment forward, everything changed. Not overnight, not instantly, but the shift had started. They committed. They followed through. And years later, they were living a life they once thought was impossible. There are people who struggled with their health for years. trying diet after diet, failing over and over, feeling like they'd never get it right. And then one day they decided, no more quick fixes, no more waiting. They committed to the process, not just for a week or a month, but for life. And that single decision led them to a completely different future. One where they were strong, confident, thriving. There are people who spent their whole lives playing small, afraid to speak up, afraid to chase their dreams. They let fear run their life. And then at some point they said, no more. They stepped into the fear instead of running from it. They made the decision to believe in themselves, even when no one else did. And that choice, that one moment, opened doors they never even knew existed. It's not about luck. It's not about having the right timing, the right background, or the right resources. It's about the moment when you decide that enough is enough. The moment you refuse to stay where you are. The moment you take control of your life. And here's the thing. You never know when that moment will come. You never know when that one choice will be the one that changes everything. But what you do know is that if you keep hesitating, if you keep waiting, if you keep putting off making a decision, nothing will change. You have the power to create that moment today, right now. The stories of success, the stories of transformation, they aren't just for other people. They're for you. Only if you're willing to make that decision. So what will it be? Will today be the day everything changes? Will today be the moment you look back on and say, that was it. That was when I finally decided to step up, because that moment is yours to create. But only if you're willing to choose it. People think success is about talent. They think it's about intelligence, about being in the right place at the right time. They look at those who've made it and say, they were just lucky. Or they had something I don't. But that's a lie. That's the excuse people tell themselves to stay comfortable, to avoid taking action. Because the truth is, success is never about how talented you are. It's about how committed you are. It's about how much you're willing to keep pushing forward, even when things get hard, even when it looks like nothing is working. Most people don't fail because they're not good enough. They fail because they quit too soon. They start with excitement, with energy, with passion. They say, this is my time, this is my moment. And then what happens? Life punches them in the face. Things don't go as planned. They hit obstacles, rejection, failure, doubt. And suddenly that excitement disappears. That energy fades. And they convince themselves that maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe they weren't cut out for it after all. But here's the thing. That moment, the one where everything feels like it's falling apart, that's the test. That's the moment that separates those who succeed from those who give up. Every single person who's ever built something great has had that moment. The moment where they wanted to quit. The difference? They didn't. They pushed through. They kept going when no one believed in them. They kept showing up, even when they felt like a failure. They refused to back down because they understood something most people don't. Your success isn't decided by your talent, your background, or your circumstances. It's decided by your willingness to keep moving forward no matter what. Think about it. Every breakthrough, every massive success, every transformation happens because someone made the choice to keep going. The entrepreneur who failed 3 businesses before building a $1 million company. The athlete who lost every competition before finally winning. The writer who was rejected by every publisher before finally getting that one yes. Their success didn't come from luck. It came from their refusal to quit. But most people never get there. They stop too soon. They let failure define them instead of using it to fuel them. They let setbacks convince them that they're not capable instead of realizing that setbacks are just part of the process. Because the truth is, failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the path to it. Every time you fall, every time you struggle, every time you hit a wall, it's not a reason to stop, it's a reason to push harder. So ask yourself, how bad do you want it? How committed are you? Are you willing to keep going when it gets tough? Are you willing to put in the work when no one is watching? Are you willing to show up day after day, even when you don't feel like it? Because that's what separates the people who dream from the people who do. That's what determines whether you'll be looking back 5 years from now, proud of what you built, or full of regret because you gave up too soon. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to refuse to quit. You just need to make the decision, right now, that no matter what happens, no matter how many times you fail, No matter how many obstacles come your way, you're going to keep moving forward. You're going to keep fighting for what you want. And if you do that, if you truly commit, if you refuse to back down, then nothing can stop you. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for things to get easier. Decide, right now, that this is your time, that this is your moment, that no matter what, you will keep going. Because if you do that, if you make that commitment, then one day you'll look back on this moment and realize it was the decision that changed everything.